Yeah. Hello, everyone. Is my voice audible, guys?
Good morning, sir. Yes, it's audible.
Yeah. Anybody tried yesterday's example? Found any kind of solution? Change your counter app. Let's copy this yesterday's all the files in another folder. So yesterday we have tried first in our normal HTML and JavaScript, right? So this page, if I directly load in my browser, you will be able to see this user interface. Now this entire user interface we have created in normal HTML. And now the moment I click on this, we are changing this count using JavaScript. We are able to change this count using JavaScript. So to do this kind of DOM manipulation, we have just used DOM APIs. So as I have mentioned yesterday, first as a dev, directly we are using DOM APIs to manipulate your DOM, to manipulate DOM. Okay, so using DOM APIs directly is not that easy. If you have good amount of knowledge on the DOM APIs, then only you will be able to use this DOM APIs more efficiently. And if you are using this DOM APIs efficiently, then the performance of your application will be good. If you fail to use this DOM APIs efficiently, then it will affect your performance. It will affect the performance of your application. That is the reason, instead of directly dealing as a developer with this DOM APIs, now what we are going to do, we are going to take the help of a library called React. Now, as a developer, we will tell to React, how our DOM should be manipulated. As a developer, you will tell to React how your DOM should be manipulated. Internally, React will use DOM APIs and it will manipulate DOM the way you have instructed it. The way you have instructed it. Because React knows how to use efficiently these DOM APIs. So now you will tell to React how your DOM should be updated. React will internally take the help of DOM APIs and it will update your DOM. It will update your DOM. Okay. So for this, already we have our React application here. So let me run my local server. Now we can access our React application. Now this is our React application. This was our HTML JavaScript application. Now this is our React application. Now my requirement is the moment I click on this button, this count should increase. This count should increase. Now what React says, in your user interface, whatever user interface you are displaying in any component, if your data changes, if you think that your data should change on doing some actions, whenever you want to change any data on your user interface, if you do some actions, then that data should come from one special variable called state. So what React says, in your user interface, if any part of UI changes or if any data changes, then that data should come from the special variable called state. So if you have like this component, in this component, if you are displaying any data in some UI, now if you think that any data will change on doing some kind of action means maybe let's assume that if you click on this button, here some data should change. In that case, here, whatever data you are displaying, that data should come from one special variable called state. So React says, create one special variable called state. In that variable, first you store your data. And this data you bind with your JSX elements. Now, which data we have to store in the state? The data which is going to change on doing some kind of action. Only that data we have to store in the state. And from state, we have to bind that data with the JSX. Now, whenever you click on this button, you want to change this data. So in that case, what we have to do, whenever we click on this button, we have to just update our state. So if you update your state, then whatever data you have updated in this state, React will take care of updating that data inside your UI. It will take care of updating your data inside UI. So just what we need to do is now you have to create one special variable called state. In that state, you have to store the data first. Then that data you have to bind with the JSX. Now, whatever data you have in this state, that data will be visible in the UI. Whenever you click on this button, you have to just update this variable. If you update this variable, automatically React will update that new data inside your UI. It will update your new data inside your UI. So basically here we are telling to the React, initially show this data in my DOM. Then once I update my state, show me that updated data in my DOM. So this is how you are instructing to the React. Now what is this special variable? Now this special variable is state. So state is a special variable in React. Where we can store any type of data. State data we can bind with JSX element. Whenever state gets updated, internally React take care of updating UI with new state data. So what is state? It is a simple variable in React where we can store any type of data. So in that variable, you can store any type of data. Any type of data means you can store string, you can store number, you can store Boolean, you can store object, you can store array as well. Even you can store one function also. State data we can bind with JSX element. Binding means now whatever data you have in the JSX state variable, that data you can bind with your JSX so that that data will be visible in your UI. So in last example, we have created normal variable of JavaScript. This was the normal variable of JavaScript. This variable we have binded with our JSX element. Here we have binded. So the moment we bind this variable with the JSX element, whatever data you stored in this variable, that data was visible on the screen. In the same way, here we can create one state variable. In that we can store some data. That data we can bind with our JSX element. So whatever data you have in this state, that data will be visible on the screen. Now, whenever you update your state, your UI will also get updated. Your UI also will get updated. Now here, if you see, here if I click on this button, your variable value is getting updated, but that UI is not getting updated. Now let me just go back here. Here if I say count plus plus, and console.log of count. Here variable value is getting updated, but that is not updated inside your UI. So here variable value is updating, but here your UI is not updated. But if you create a state variable instead of normal variable, instead of this normal variable, if I create a state variable, then if you update that state variable, then internally React will take care of updating your UI. So you need not to worry about how your UI should get updated with your state value. That will be taken care by React. So now here, first we have to learn how to get this state variable. How to create or get a state variable. If you want to create or get a state variable, then you have to call one predefined function, which is coming from React library. The name of that function is useState. useState. Using useState function, we can get a state variable. Now React is providing us one predefined function that is called useState. Now, whenever you call this function called useState, it is going to return one array. This function is going to return one array. And in that array, exactly you will have two elements. The first element is your variable, that is your state variable. And second element is one more predefined function called setter function. One more predefined function called setter function. So whenever you call this useState function, this function is going to return one array. In that array, exactly you have two elements. The first element will be always a variable, and second element will be always one more predefined function called setter function. So this is called variable, and the next element is your setter function. Setter function. So we have to take the help of useState function. Using this useState, we will get our state variable. Now inside this state variable, you can store some data. And whenever you update this state variable with whatever data, that data will get updated in your UI also. So this is the way how we get the state variable. So let's see practically now how to get this state variable. For this, we require this useState function. So let me go to my component. Now here, First I have to import that use the state function, which is coming from React library. How to import? For that, we have to use import statement. We have to open curly braces, close curly braces from React library. Now this React library is kept inside a node_modules folder. So somewhere under node_modules folder, you have this React library. So from this React library, we want use the state function. Now this is simple JavaScript function. Now this function we have to call inside our component, because inside this component we require that state variable. So inside this component you have to call this use state. Now whenever you call this use state function, it will return one array. This function is going to return one array. That array contains exactly 2 elements, not more than 2 elements, not less than 2 elements, exactly 2 elements. So what we can do here, we can use destructuring. We can use the concept of JavaScript destructuring. So here I am destructuring that array. And here I will take 2 references. One is state, one more is set state. So in this first reference, your state variable will store. In second reference, your setter function will store. Your setter function will store. Now we got this state variable. Now right now inside this state, there is no data. So it's like a undefined. Right now in this variable, there is no data. So by default, it will be undefined. So in this state, I want to store some data. I want to store some data. So if you want to store any data by default inside this state, then that data you have to pass as a first argument to the use state. Suppose here I am passing 99. The moment I pass 99, this data will go and store inside this variable. Now this variable, you can bind with your JSX element. Here I will bind. Now this is called binding the state variable with JSX. The moment you bind your state variable with JSX, save your file, go back to your browser. Now you will see here 99. You got here 99. Now this is normal variable only. In this you can store any type of data. Right now I am storing number type of data. If I want, I can store string type of data also. I will say here Kabir. The moment I say Kabir, here you will see that Kabir. If I want, I can store some Boolean value also. Like this Boolean value also, but Boolean value will not be visible on this screen. If I want, I can store one array also. Like this, I can store one array also. I will just say here JavaScript. So if you want to access the first element of your array, here you have to say state of 0. So here you got JavaScript. If you want, you can store one object also. I will say here name equals to iPhone. Now, if it is an object, then here we have to say state.name. So the point is, inside your variable, by default, you can store any type of data depending upon your requirement. But for current requirement, we want here number type of data. So I will store 0 by default. The moment I store 0 on the screen, 0 will be visible. So here I have to remove this dot name. Now 0 will be visible. Now we want this count should increase whenever we click on this button. Now what React says, you just update your state. You just update your state. If you update your state with whatever data, that data I will update inside your UI. I will update that data inside your UI. Now the question is how to update this state? How to update this state? How to update the state variable? This is where your second element comes into picture. That is your setter function. So using setter function, that is set state. So using setter function, that is set state, we can update the data of state variable. Data of the state variable. Now, if you call this set state, because this is also a function, and if you pass some data here, whatever data you will give to the set state, that data will be updated inside your state. That data will be updated inside your state. Whatever data you will pass as an argument to set state, automatically this data will be updated inside your state. Plus, that new data will get updated in your UI also. Automatically, that new data will get updated in your UI also. Now, who will take care of updating your UI? React will take care of updating your UI. How internally React is updating that UI? Internally, React is using your DOM APIs only. Internally, React is using DOM APIs to update your UI. You are just updating the variable. Internally, React will take care of updating your UI with the help of DOM APIs. Just see here now how to do this. Now, whenever I click on this button, we are calling this function. Now, in this function, we can call this set state. And I will say that my set state should get, or my state should get updated with the data Kabir. I am passing string now. Now, whenever I click on this button, this function will be called. Inside this function, we are calling set state. To set state, we are passing Kabir as an argument. Nothing but we are passing string as an argument. Now, this string will get updated inside your state. So what React will do, it will remove this 0 and it will add this string inside this state. Plus, it will update that Kabir inside your UI also. Inside your UI also. So if you go back here, if I click on this, I got here Kabir. So you can update with whatever data you want. But right now we don't want Kabir, we want count should increase. So to this set state, we can pass like this directly data, or else we can pass one expression also. We can pass one expression as an argument also. So I can pass one expression like this. Whatever state value I have, to that you add 1. So whenever you pass like this one expression, in that case, what happens? This expression will be evaluated. Whatever result will be generated, that result will be updated inside your state variable. So we are saying that take the current state value, add 1 to it, add 1 to it, save it, come back here. Let me refresh. Let me click on this. Same functionality we got here also. Here also I will make 0. Here also I will make 0. This is your JavaScript. Now to get like this increase of the count, how much code we have written? This much code we have written. 1 and 2, 3. Totally 3 lines we have written. Same example we have did with React. How much code we have written? Just 1 line of code we have. Or you can consider 2 lines. 1 and 2. So in React, we are writing 2 lines of code. In your normal JavaScript, you are writing 3 lines of code. In JavaScript, you have to remember this predefined objects and functions, these properties, and you have to write it. But here, just you have to learn how to create state, how to store the data in the state, how to update state, how to create state, how to store the data in the state, how to update the state. If you learn this much, you will be able to do like this DOM manipulations. Same functionality we got here. So here we are not doing the DOM manipulation, we are telling to the React. So how you are telling? You are telling with the help of a concept called state. With the help of a concept called state. State in React. So a lot of people says that state is an object. State is not object, guys, okay? So you will hear in lot of websites or in lot of other sessions, state is a object. Okay, this is completely wrong answer. Okay, state is not object now. Now, what is state? State is a variable. It is a special variable in React where we can store any type of data, any type of data. So don't say state is a object. This is completely wrong. So here practically we have seen state is a simple variable where we are storing data. You can store number type of data, string type of data, object, array, even you can store one function also. You can store one function. Okay, this is the first example with your state concept. Yeah, anyone have any doubts or any confusion in this?
How do we pass multiple values, sir? Well, data.
Object, take object. In your state, take object and pass multiple values, or take array and you can pass multiple values. Okay. So right now you have to just understand what is state, how to create state, how to store default data in this state, how to update state. Okay. So from now, in each and every session, we are going to use state forms till we finish our course. So you will get more habituated with this state concept. This is the first example. So here you just need to understand how to get that state variable, how to store some default data, how to update that state. Okay. So we are going to see all the combinations. Right now we are seeing with the number. I will show with string. I will show with object. I will show with array as well.
Okay.
So, set state function is coming from React, right? Is from which object in React?
It is coming from React, this function, use state function. This function returns one array. In that array, you have these two variables. So simply what React internally did, they created one function, use the state. And in this, from this function, they are simply returning one array. In this array, they have state variable and set state function. They have created that set state function somewhere here. they have written some logic here. Here also they have written some logic. Now what you are doing, you are calling this function. Now if you are calling this function, what this function will do? It will return one array too. If it is returning that array, we are just destructuring that array. Okay, here destructuring concept is used. So if you don't know what is destructuring, after this session, just go and explore that concept. Destructuring in JavaScript. So we can use this concept with array and object. So you have to learn both. How we can destructure array, how we can destructure object. Okay, this is JavaScript topic, not React topic. So here we are using destructure. So this is what internally React might do. So that is what we call library. React is providing us this predefined function now. They wrote some logic in that function. We have to just know the purpose of that function and we have to use it. We have to just know the purpose of that function and we have to use it. Now, what logic they have written, you need not to know. This is what library and frameworks all about. All this will provide us inbuilt functionality. We have to just use. We have to understand what is that functionality and we have to use it. Now, let's take one more example. I want to create one image container. And here I want to create two buttons. Button 1 and button 2. Okay. Now here by default, I want to show some data. Nothing but I want to show some image basically. Let's suppose here we are showing React image by default. So on this button, I want to show some content like React and let's suppose Angular. Now by default, we will show here React image. The moment I click on this Angular button, I want to remove this React image. I want to show here Angular image. If I click on React, then again I want to remove Angular image. I want to show React image. So by default, we will show React image. The moment you click on Angular, you have to replace React image with Angular. Again, if you click on React, again you have to replace Angular image with React. So this is what I want to do. So for this, I want to create like this user interface. So if I want to create like this user interface, first I need to create one component. I need to create one component. So what I will do, I will go to my VS Code. I will close this files. I will minimize this counter folder. I will select this component. Under this component, I want to create one image task kind of folder. Under this folder, I want to just create one file called image.com.js. Okay, this time I am creating normal JavaScript file, not JSX file. Inside this JavaScript file, I want to create one component, that is functional component. So functional image comp add return add one div. And export this component from here. Here, just for testing purpose, I will add one H2. I will say image comp. Now I want to create one CSS file also. So I will create here imagecomp.css file. Now this CSS file, I will import here. Imagecomp.css. What I did, I just created one simple folder here. In that folder, I have created two files. In one file, I have created component. In another file, I have created one CSS file. I have created one CSS file. Guys, just give me a minute. I will be back. Yeah. Is my voice audible, guys?
Yes, sir.
In this CSS, now let's write one basic CSS. I will just add here ID. Okay, this time I'm adding ID. And here I will say image comp. Okay, you can add whatever you want. I'm just adding image comp. Now here I will select that image comp. And here I will add margin. So from top 100 pixel and auto I will say, and width I will decrease to some 500 pixel. Let's add some box shadow, 10 pixel, green, and let me just add some padding, 30 pixel. Now we have created one component. Now this component I want to show on my screen. So for that, go to the app.jsx file. Here you can import your image comp. Here you got suggestion. You can click on this. It got imported. Now here simply you can render your image comp. Now see inside my app component, I am rendering two components, image component, counter component. So if I go back to the browser, here we got issues, failed to parse source for import analysis because of the context. Let me just check here. Maybe here, let me add JS. We got it. It is forcing us to name the file name JSX only. Let's change its extension to JSX. Here, let me add JSX. Now it is coming. Okay. So let me remove this extension. Even if you don't add extension, it will ask us. So in this white, I think it is forcing us to create JSX files only. In CRA, we can create JavaScript files as well. So now let's come back here. Now here, we are getting that component. But what we want here, instead of this H2, we want one image. SRC, some link we will add, width, I will say here 500, height, something like 400. Or 300 we will take. And we will close this. Just I have taken one image tag. If I save it, if I go back here, we got this image container. And here I will add break button. So basically I have added a break tag. And here I want two buttons. One is React. One more is Angular. So to save it, you got like this. Now, in between these buttons, you can generate some margin. So under this image com, whatever buttons I have, so just add margin right. Some 30 pixel I will add. Let's see how it looks. We got like this. We got some space between the buttons. Okay. Now here I want to display some image. So if you want to display some image here, simply you can grab some image from the internet. So here, let's suppose I want to use React images. Just grab any React image. Okay, I will just take this image. Right click, copy this image address, and you paste inside your SRC. Now that image will be visible on the screen. So if we go back here, this image is visible on the screen. Let's increase the width of the image, maybe to the 400. It looks like this. Okay, or else I can make it 500 also. It looks like this. This is our image. This was our counter. So on this screen, right now we are displaying how many components? On this screen, how many components I am displaying? On this web page, how many components I am displaying?
2.
Pakka 2. Anyone have any other answer? It's 2.
Yes, sir.
3. You are displaying 3. Where is app? You are displaying app component also, right? First you are displaying app component, then inside that you are displaying image and count. But in the app component, you don't have any UI. That's why it is not visible on display. But first app component is displayed. Then inside that, you are displaying image component and counter component. So we are displaying 3 components, not 2. Okay. Now, my requirement is if I click on Angular, this image should change. Now, can you guys tell me what I need to do? Now, if I click on this Angular button, I want to change the image. So what I need to do? It means whenever we click on this button, on click, we want to do some action. I will say change to Angular. Here I will create that function. Const change to Angular. Now, inside this function, what we need to do so that this image will change. That image will change.
Need to
If I
pass
click on this button,
image URL.
tell where I have to pass.
Take a state variable and
Mm.
I have to take a state variable. Then, so this
yeah,
is our
We
set
got to assign the URL link.
nice. So basically, what we have to do here is this is our component, right? In this
Yeah.
component, we will take one state variable.
Mhm.
By default, in this state variable, we will store React.js image URL. And this state variable, we will bind with our src attribute. So inside your state, whatever URL you have, that URL basically you are binding with the src. So that image will be displayed. Now, whenever you click on this Angular, what we have to do now? Whenever I click on this Angular, what I have to do?
It should call again the state variable.
Like at higher level, what you will say? If I click on Angular, I want Angular image. To get Angular image, what I need to do? Anyone? I have to just update state with Angular image URL. That's it. If I click on this Angular button, I just need to update my state with Angular image URL. If I click on again this button, React button, what I need to do? Again, I have to update my state variable with React image URL. That's it. Just inside the state, you have to update URLs. If you click on Angular, you have to add Angular image URL. If you click on React, you have to add React image URL. That's it. Your state will get updated. Your UI will get updated. So what we will do now, we will not hard code this URL here. I will remove this URL from here. I have removed it. The moment I removed it, now you will see that there is no image. Now we will create one state variable. How to create a state variable? For that, we require use the state function. So first import curly braces from React. From this React library, what we want? From this React library, we want use state function. Now this use state function you can call here. Now whenever you call this use state function, it is going to return one array. Now we will destructure that array. We will destructure that array. So while destructuring, here you can take two references. And for those references, you can give whatever name you want. This time I am giving URL, comma, set URL. It is not mandatory that you have to give your reference name as a state only. You can give whatever you want. But first reference will be always a variable. Second reference will be always one function. Now, inside this variable, what we want? Inside this variable, we want to store that React image URL. So I will pass that URL as the first argument to the user state in this string format. Now this URL will go and store inside this variable. Now this variable we will bind with src. How to bind? Now remove this double quotes, add curly brace because we are passing here JavaScript now. And here simply pass URL. Now if I save it, I got React. Now whenever you click on this Angular, what we are doing? We are calling this function. Now in this function, what we have to do? We have to simply call set URL function. And here we have to pass new URL. So I will just grab some new image from the internet. So I will grab this image, right click, copy image link, and paste inside this. That's it. Now, if I go back, let me close all this now. Now, let me close this as well. If I click on Angular, I got Angular. If I click on React, again, I want here React image back. It means whenever you click on this button, React on click, I will call one more function, change to React. These are just user-defined function. You can give whatever names you want. I will create here one more function, const change to React. Now tell me what I need to do here so that I can get React image back.
So you need to set the
Set URL.
React.
I have to call set URL, and what I need to pass here?
React URL. React image.
React image URL. So can I copy this URL as it is? Can I paste here? Now, if you save it, if you go back here, React, right. Now see how you are able to change your UI dynamically. Same thing if you want to do in JavaScript, then you can just assume how much code you have to write. For practice purpose, you can try this task also in the JavaScript. Try to create this kind of UI using HTML and try to implement functionality using pure JavaScript. And just check the difference between React and your normal JavaScript with HTML. So basically, we are telling to the React how our DOM should get updated with the help of this state concept. So we are telling to the React, initially, whatever URL I will store here, show that image on my screen. If I change the URL, you have to change that URL also. So whenever you change URL, React will change that image as well. This is what we got here. Understood this part? Anyone have any doubts in this?
Yes, sir. First time itself we stored the React image, right?
So here we have binded it. That's why
Yeah.
by default it is showing the React image.
Okay.
If you don't store here anything, for example, let's assume that I remove this default part. So by default, it will not show anything. Now, if I click on React, I will get React image. If I click on Angular, by default, if you are not storing any default data, here if I'm not storing anything, now it is not showing anything on the screen by default. Now, if I click on Angular, I will get Angular image. If I click on React, I get React. In the
Okay.
same way, initially nothing. If I click on React, I got React image. But showing like this, nothing will not give a good user experience, right? By default, we have to show something.
Something. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm choosing React to show initial. So by default, now React image will be missing. Yeah. Anyone else?
Instead of writing that URL 2 times, we can keep that in one variable also, right? And use that variable in both places.
You can do that as well. You can create here one variable, that URL you can paste, and that variable you can pass here and there. Okay. So this is what state concept. Now let's suppose here I want to show one title as well. In my UI, before the image, I want to show one title here. For example, by default, I am showing React, right? So I want to show the title as a React.js. If I come back here, I got React.js. Okay. Now, if I click on Angular, I want to show here title as Angular. If I click on React, I want to show title as React. So if you are showing React image, title should be React. If you are showing Angular image, title should be Angular. Now, can you tell me how you will change this title? How to change the title? Now tell me, in this H1, this data is dynamic or it's a static?
Static.
This data is dynamic or like right now it is a static. But we want dynamic data or we want static data in the H1?
Dynamic.
We want dynamic data.
Dynamic data.
Data means data which is going to change. So in the H1, we want the data which will be always changing. So sometimes React, sometimes Angular, sometimes React, Angular like this. So any data which is dynamic, it should come from your state. This point you remember blindly. Any data which is dynamic in your UI, that data should come from this state. It means now this data, this title also should come from this state. So what we will do, we will create one more state. So here I am showing you how to create multiple states. If you want to create one more state, same concept, call use state. Whenever you call use state, it will return one array. You can destructure that array. Now inside this, you can take some reference name. Now don't repeat this reference name. I will just use reference name as a title, comma, set a title. And initially, I want my title should be React. So now this React is stored inside this title state variable. Now this title we will bind with our JSX. You know how to bind it. Just add curly brace, pass title. Now for this H1, if I want, I can just add some style like color. I will say red. If I come back here, I got here. React. Because here we stored React. Here if I say React something like this, it will show that as well. So what we are doing, we are creating one more state variable. This is one state variable, this is another state variable. Like this, how many state variables we can create in our component? We can create any number of state variables. We don't have any kind of restrictions. Like how in your JavaScript, you can create any number of variables. In the same way, in your component, you can create any number of state variables. Just this reference part will change. This reference part you should not repeat. It should be different. Now, whenever I am clicking on Angular, first we are changing the URL. After this URL, you change title also. It should change to Angular. And same title I want to change with my React also. Whenever I call change to React, change URL, then change title as well. I mean here, it should be React. That's it. Now if you come back here, Angular, React. Got Angular, here we got React. Title also changing, image is also changing. So you are able to change the content of your UI using state concept. Okay. So here I will stop it because I don't want to make it a little bit more stress. So this is very, 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 very important concept in React. So after going home, practice on these two examples and understand exactly how to create state, how to update state. So just practice it. Whatever doubts you will get, just let me know in tomorrow's session. Okay, so tomorrow we have this session at same time. So I will push this on the GitHub. So let me just let me push in the previous GitHub only right now. So tomorrow I will change that GitHub link. I'm not getting time to change. I will create it. Okay. I will just push right now this examples and this paint file. So you guys can practice it. Okay, use same GitHub URL which we have used for our demo purpose as well. And practice this example in normal JavaScript also. Okay, this image component example. Try to create same user interface with your HTML JavaScript and implement same functionality. And then just try to analyze the difference between React and the difference between normal JavaScript. Already I have shown this part. You guys try this part with JavaScript. Okay, this is the functionality you should get. So I will update right now so that you should be able to find it. Yeah, it is updated on the GitHub, guys. You guys can have a look on this part. So let's meet tomorrow at same time.